Hi, I'm Nancy Herkness, and this is Writer Unedited number 56. Wow, I've been talking a lot. Where I sit at my writing desk with nothing fancy going on in the background. That's my office. I do put tulips and a couple of books out, but that's it. And I just chat about whatever crosses my mind. If you have questions, please type them in and I will try to answer them during the live. If you type them in after the live, I will still try to answer them. I just may not see them if it's too much later. Oh, there are two viewers. Who's the other person? Say hi. What was I saying? Oh, yes. If you miss a live, you can always find it on my YouTube channel, and I will put a link in the comments below, like I always do. So what am I going to talk about today? Well, I have to admit I was sort of blank for a while there, but I had critique group last night. Now, I think I've talked about my critique group before, but I'm hoping that it was long enough ago that you don't remember it anymore, because I don't remember when I did it. So I'm going to talk about it again because we met last night and it's fresh in my mind, and I love my critique group so much. So wait, let me look. There's a comment here. Gail said, did you rake your leaves? Heck no. They're so pretty. I like seeing them on the yard. To be honest, I have a lawn maintenance company who will come and take them away, which always actually kind of makes me sad because I think they're pretty. I was so shocked when I walked out my front door too to see them spread all over the lawn because they literally were not there yesterday. I mean, a few had drifted down, but nothing like that carpet. But it's pretty. Do you have leaves in your front yard, Gail? Or your backyard? Or anywhere else in your yard? Okay, so I'm going to talk about critique groups. So we met here at my house last night, and it was a wonderful meeting, as it always is, frankly. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about sort of my critique group. They're all different kinds. Everybody does it differently. But I joined this critique group, oh gosh, well over 10 years ago. I mean, I can't remember exactly, 15 years ago maybe. And I'll tell you the truth, I was very dubious about critique groups mostly because I had heard sort of horror stories about how they destroyed writers' self-confidence and stuff, which didn't sound like fun to me. And also, as you guys know, I don't really talk about my writing process a lot because frankly, I think it's very fragile and I think it's kind of magic, and I don't want to mess with that. I mean, there are writers who give, entire workshops on their writing process, and I bow down in awe to them because I don't know what my process is. I just know that it works most of the time, some of the time, hopefully. And I just don't want to mess around with it. So I don't really like to show my work in progress to people because it messes with my head when they make comments on it. Not you guys, of course. You guys are wonderful. But, like people who are going to critique it. It was a scary thought for me. But back in those days, I'm trying to think how long ago it was. I mean, I'm guessing 2010, maybe? Somewhere around there. No, probably even before that. My career was in a very deep valley. It was in an abyss. It was bad. And I was despairing. And so I sat down next to Lisa Verge Higgins at a New Jersey Romance Writers lunch meeting, one of our meetings. And it turned out that her critique group had just lost a member. And they like to keep it at 4 members. So we got to chatting, and I didn't say anything about critiquing or anything because I wasn't actually looking for a critique group since I was terrified of them. But she happened to mention that this had happened, and I thought, well, honestly, what do I have to lose? Maybe this will, because I had kind of lost all confidence in my abilities as a writer at that point because I couldn't sell anything, couldn't sell a book. And this was before self-publishing really became a thing. So I was in despair anyway, and I thought, well, can't get any worse. Why don't I join the group? Because I really liked what for the hour I talked to Lisa, I thought she was great. Oh my God, it's the best thing I've ever done for myself because it turned out this group was amazing. Lisa is now the longest standing member of the group. I don't even know how long she's been a member. I am the next longest standing member of the group. Then we lost a member and replaced her with Miriam Allenson, who writes really funny women's fiction. And then we lost another member and we replaced her with Jennifer Wilk, who writes warm, lovely, emotional romance, and is now doing a Jewish romance, romance with a Jewish element for Harlequin, which is really cool. I enjoy that. So they are an absolutely terrific group of writers and of women, and we have become dear, close friends, which is a huge thing for writers because our brains work in weird ways, and it's really good to have a group of people who understand how crazy my brain is because theirs are equally crazy. We don't seem nuts to each other. So it's very helpful. Very helpful. All right, I'm going to read some comments here. So Gail asked if I raked my leaves. I answered that. Gail said she has crushed rock and fake grass. Ah, that sounds good, Gail. No maintenance. I like that. Deanne says, I have very many leaves. I should be out there raking. Oh, Deanne, take a break. Take a break and enjoy it. Enjoy yourself. Rest. You can rake later, right? They won't go anywhere, unfortunately. Well, actually, they do. They break down into mulch. Maybe you could just leave them there and let them mulch your yard, right? Betty Jo's here. Hi, Betty Jo. Good to see you. Good to see you, Deanne, I should say, too. Deanne says, you just do you, Nancy. Thank you. Thank you. I've learned just to do me when it comes to writing. I kind of don't have a choice because I think I told you guys one time I tried to plot an entire book ahead of time. I outlined the whole book because I thought that would be way more efficient than my seat of the pants way of writing. And I started writing after outlining the whole book, and I was like, oh, I'm going to be so efficient here. Started writing, and after 3 chapters, I stopped because I was bored because I already knew what happened. I am what's called a discovery writer. I need to discover what's going to happen in the story to keep me interested. So it's not very efficient, but that's just my process. So Deanne, thank you. I will keep doing me. Deanne says, plantar fasciitis is horrible. It truly is. And I'm going to talk about that a little later after I finish with babbling on about critique groups. And Sally says, any hummingbirds after your shirt? Right? You would think they'd really like this shirt, but no hummingbird has ever attacked me when I was wearing this shirt. Only that other one with the flowers on it. So, yeah, and I think the hummingbirds must have gone south now or something because I haven't seen them in a while. I miss them. My cute little hummers. They're adorable. To be fair, I've also moved the lantana plant off my patio bush, which is the plant the hummingbirds like so much. I moved it off my patio because it's getting cool at night, and lantanas are tropical, and I don't like cool nights. So I've put it down in this nice little warm nook by a nice brick wall where the sun hits it a lot during the day, so it keeps it kind of going until I have to put it in the garage to keep it warm for the rest of the winter. Marianne says, how's the foot? All right, fine. You guys are talking about plantar fasciitis. I will just go, I'm going to skip to that right now, and then I'll come back to my critique group. So I went to the podiatrist again Friday. So that's my second visit to the podiatrist in the week. And she gave me, amazingly enough, another cortisone shot, which kind of surprised me because I thought you were supposed to try and space them out. But she checked the inflammation and said, I'm going to give you another shot to just calm it down. So honestly, it's almost fine now. I forget about it about half the time. The only sort of residual issue I'm having is that my little toe is still weirdly numb. And I asked the podiatrist about that, and she said that's actually very typical with plantar fasciitis because there's a nerve that goes under or over the plantar fascia. I've forgotten which it is, or maybe around it, who knows, that goes directly to your little toe. And so when the plantar fascia gets inflamed, which is what plantar fasciitis is, it impinges on that nerve, and so it tends to make your little toe feel funny. So as the inflammation continues to go down, evidently that will fix the weird feeling in my little toe. So thank you for asking. It's very nice of you. I'm so much better. I'm doing all the exercises. I got one of those rocker things to stretch my feet. I ordered some special plantar fasciitis bedroom slippers because they tell you not to go barefoot in your house. So I need, bedroom slippers with arch support and heel support. So those are coming. Yay. So thank you for asking. You guys are so sweet. I appreciate it. I have none of you ever get plantar fasciitis because boy, is it painful. Yuck. See, Sally says, how's the plant going to do in the winter? Oh, so the plant does not like winters up here. So I put it in the garage last winter, and my garage just doesn't have that much light. I even put a grow light on it, and it looked terrible by the end of the winter. It was all the leaves had fallen off, and it was half the branches were just completely brittle and dead. So I didn't know if it had died or not. So I thought, well, I'll take it out, in the spring, take it out, put it out in the sunshine, see what happens. And darn if the thing didn't come back in a big way. So I think what I'm going to do this winter is when it finally starts, once it drops to freezing, I have to put it inside at night. So I will cut it back and put it in the garage again with the grow light, although I don't think it really cares about the grow light, and see how it does for next year, because it did come back and the hummingbirds do love it. So anyway, all right, back to critique group. So I joined the critique group, and so so how does it work? Well, so all critique groups are different, but our theory is we want to come to the book completely fresh, like a reader. So we don't talk about the book to each other. We just hand over the pages and let us read it. We don't explain what's going to happen. We don't explain the themes of we don't go forward. We send 20 pages at a time to each other a week before our meeting, and then we go over them. We each read through the other people's pages, and I will show you. So this is from last night. These are my pages from last night. So we get, trying to find one that's got, so we get from our critique partners something that looks like this. So these red things are the notes they're giving us, and then you can see there's more red there, with comments. See all the red? Those are comments on how to make it better, which is what we're looking for, of course. So we sit down. First we have dinner, and we rotate between all 4 of our houses. We have dinner generally first, and we talk about the business and about where we are with our rating, and sometimes about personal matters, of course, because that always sneaks in, right? But mostly, honestly, it's about business, because, as I said, there are not a lot of people who understand the madness of a writer brain. Deanne says, I love how much authors help each other out. Yes, Deanne, especially in the romance community. Oh my gosh, authors are so generous to each other. The ones who have hit it big and are hugely successful are so generous about sharing their knowledge and their experience, and giving quotes for other people's books, and just, it's a wonderful, wonderful community. I feel so lucky to be part of it. I understand not all genres are as welcoming to each other, but the romance community is incredibly warm and wonderful. So yeah, so we sit around and we eat, and then we spend several hours going through each other's pages with all these notes that we've written ahead of time. Now, I have to admit, I hand edit. So this is my part of the manuscript, and you can see I'm handwriting. This is what I do for my partners too. I hand edit because I just see better on paper as far as editing goes. And we will do everything from tiny little grammatical corrections, or word choice corrections, or, is this clear? Is it not? Is it, pacing? Does it move along fast enough? Is it believable? is the character sympathetic in this scene? Is there enough internalization? Do we understand the emotions? You know, sort of to all the way up to like, is the character arc developing through the book satisfactorily? You know, we've read, so now in my book we're up to, this was chapters 4 and 5, so I'm not really that far along, but you know, is the plot arc working? Are the characters growing? Do we understand what the characters' issues are? Just everything. Is there too much detail? Because I was doing the rock climbing scene. You guys know I've talked about how I had to learn rock climbing, or about rock climbing, not to do rock climbing. And so, you know, is there too much detail about rock climbing? Do you need more detail? Does it need clarifying? So, you know, all that kind of stuff. We do everything. It is an intense, deep dive. And, you know, it's very paper intensive because I like to do it on paper. And what I do is I take all of the critiques that my partners give me and I combine them onto one set of pages. This is my set of pages. Again, I write them on with hand, by hand, so I have all the notes in one place, and then I go through and put it all into the manuscript. You know, do all the fixes. Try and incorporate their suggestions, because the one thing writers know how to do is to, you know, I mean, they'll make little corrections, like they'll say, well, you might structure this sentence this way, but if it's big stuff, they're like, well, this is a problem, and then they let you figure out how to fix it, because that's how it works. I'm trying to think what else I was going to say about this. Okay, let's see what other people say. Deanne says, Viola Shipman Wade Rose hit the nail on the head. Authors write 2 to 4 books a week? No, a year. That must be a year. Readers read over 100 books a year, so helping each other really does. Exactly, right? I can't possibly write enough books to keep my readers happy. I mean, not even close. So, yeah, what do they say? A rising tide floats all boats? That's pretty much how we feel. Yeah, a year. I thought that's what you meant, Deanna. I was like, wow, anybody who can write 2 books a week is probably using AI, frankly. I mean, I write 1 book a year, and that's hard for me. You know, that's pushing. So, yeah, of course I'm going to share, and of course I'm going to recommend other people's books. I mean, I was a reader first, so I want to share other good books with fellow readers. And yeah, I don't worry about it taking away readers from me. That's crazy. Craziness. So the great thing that I find about having the critique group too, besides keeping me sane, is that when I go through as much of the book as they've critiqued. By the time I have to send it to my professional editor, I will put in all the corrections and all this, try to incorporate all the suggestions. And what I find is that those pages are ones that my professional editor has the fewest problems with, the fewest issues with, the fewest comments on, because my critique partners have already beaten them up and made them good. So it's great, you know. It gives me confidence in the book that the story is working. And even though my critique partners don't get to work through the whole book before I have to hand it in, they still catch problems, you know, that are early in the book, and that way I don't propagate them through the whole story before they catch them, basically. So it's really, really helpful, and I love them. So far, just to show you, so this is 5 chapters of Raoul's book. This is the pile of paper from my critique group that I'm working through to fix things. Just to tantalize you, where is it? So I started this book with the wedding, Gabrielle and Quinn's wedding. And it turned out it really didn't work as an opening for the book, but the wedding will happen later in the book. And you notice I say, used to edit wedding scenes when added back in. So this was my critique group worked through those scenes, which is how I decided they didn't work as opening scenes, but their critiques are not for naught, because I will be incorporating them. All right, let's see what else other people have to say. Sally says, do you ever disagree with the comments? Do the critique partners always agree with each other? Oh, so great question. I don't always agree with the comments, but I always look at where they say there's an issue, because generally they're right. There is an issue, even if I'm not sure they're describing the issue correctly, or that they've, that the issue is what they think it is, but there's usually a problem there. So, and of course, it's my book, so if I really disagree with them, I don't have to do what they say. I mean, that's true even with my professional editor, of course, as you know, Sally, since you have worked with Kensington for many years. The author has the last say on their book, always, because my name's going on that book, so I get the final say. Do my critique partners always agree with each other? No, and that's actually great, and that's kind of why we have 4 people, because that way 3 people are critiquing you, and so you have a tiebreaker, right? So if 2 people are saying one thing and one person saying another, usually you can trust the 2 people's instinct. Now, it's pretty rare that there's a major disagreement amongst us, because again, we're pretty good at this, and we can, and as I said before, if somebody says there's a problem but they describe it differently than I think, it's still usually a problem. So yeah, we call it the tiebreaker, and it's fun. It's great. Kelly says, hello, beautiful lady. I got my book plates. Thank you so much. Oh, you're so welcome, Kelly. I'm glad they got there. Yay. So happy. Glad you like them. Kelly says, I'm at work, so coffee break. I caught this live. Good timing, Kelly. So glad you're here. Can't wait to read Gabrielle and Luis. Yay. Yes, enjoy. I can't wait for you to read them either. So speaking of that, I am going to move on. So we talked about plantar fasciitis. Yes, my update on Raoul's book. So the good news is, now that my foot is not killing me all the time, my brain kind of woke up, my creative brain, or my muse, whatever you want to call it. As you know, I consider my process magic, so who knows. Woke up again, and I started writing again, and I've actually written 2 more scenes in Raoul's book. One scene is between Gabrielle and Erica, Erica being the heroine of Raoul's book. And I know you guys will be happy to see Gabrielle, at some length again. Although he's already been in the book, because I did the scene with all the young royals together, so you already saw him once. But this one's even more focused on just Gabrielle and Erica. And I'm now in the middle of writing a scene that is Raoul and Mikel Silva, the head of Luis's security. And I always enjoy scenes with Mikel because he's kind of an enigma wrapped in a mystery, and he's just vaguely menacing, right? He's like the dark side of my books. And I always get this sort of delicious shiver when he's in a scene, because, there's kind of this little cloud that sort of danger and menace that hovers around him. Of course, he's intensely loyal to the king. But, he's pretty ruthless in protecting the people he thinks need protecting. So I get a kick out of having him. How do you guys feel about Mikel? Do you feel that same little when he's in a scene? Or is that just me? So anyone who has a comment, let me know. All right, so I don't think I have a whole lot more to talk about. I think I pretty much babbled on through everything I had to babble on about. Does anybody have questions? Let's see, we have some more comments. Sally says, I'm waiting for you to write his story, Mikel's story. Yeah, I'm kind of excited about writing that too. So my original plan was to write Mikel's story right after Raoul's story, because at the time I planned as much as I ever plan, in quotes, as much as I ever plan any books, planned this series. I didn't know Grace would exist, because she just walked into Luis's book unexpectedly, because that's me, that's my process. And now, of course, it makes sense to have Grace's book in there, but I don't know, I think I still may write Mikel's after Raoul's, just because my brain is kind of stuck in that idea of doing that, and then we'll do grace afterward, right? Maybe. I don't know. Gail says, I'd want him in my corner. Oh, yeah, me too. I would want him to be intensely loyal to me. I would definitely not want to get on his bad side, which is why writing about him will be interesting because, you know, I'm not really a dark person, and I'm not sure how good I will be at entering the psyche of a dark person and how much it will affect my mood in real life because, you know, my books get pretty embedded in my soul, I guess. Is that the way to put it? In my psyche, whatever. So they tend to spill into my real life sometimes. The emotions tend to spill into my real life. So it might be tough with Mikkel. On the other hand, he needs redeeming. So, you know, that's the positive part of writing about him. He needs to be brought back into the light, right? Sally says, I think you are more of a pantser than I am. Really? To be fair, I'm pretty pantser. I'm really not good at the outlining things ahead of time because the book grows for me. It's very organic. You know, one scene branches into the next scene, branches into the next scene, branches into the next scene, which actually makes it hard to edit in some ways because it's already so tightly woven that, you know, tearing apart parts of it, you then have to, you know, do it carefully because you'll unravel other parts of it. So it makes it a little harder to edit, I think, because it's so organic for me. It's such an organic process. On the other hand, I think it makes the story flow really well. I generally don't get a lot of complaints about smoothness. You know, people tend to feel it just flows very easily. Sally says, and the book is more the emotion and characters in the midst. Exactly, right? So we write romance, so yes, it's more about the characters. On the other hand, I have these little bits of suspense plot in my books now, so I'm having to learn how to build plot a little more. Raoul's book has a suspense plot. Gabrielle's had a very heavy suspense plot, of course. Louisa's much, much less. Like barely any tiny amount. Raoul's is probably somewhere in between the two. And yeah, I'm having to learn how to do that. It's hard. And sometimes I do have to write out just the suspense plot. I don't write out anything else. But that's my process. As Dean said, I have to do me, because if I try and mess with that, it does not work. So Sally had another comment that I missed back here. Where was it? Oh, you want me to knit the tree a cozy blanket, Sally? Yeah, I don't think that would work for it. I think it just has to live in the garage over the winter to keep it going. Gail says, process works for me. Yeah, it's hard. It's a hard process, but it's mine. And I've learned that I have to live with that. So what are you going to do? I mean, the one thing I will say, the other thing I have learned is that even though my process is annoying, there are ways to help it along. And one of them is to sit down in front of the computer every day. Even when I don't feel like writing, I will sit down in front of the computer every day. And sometimes I will stare at it for an hour and go, okay, I got nothing, and go on and do something else. But it forces me to keep my head in the story, even when the story's not moving. So that's my one bit of discipline for my weird, magic, fragile process, is keep my head in the story. And walk. Now, so this was a reason why plantar fasciitis was actually a problem for my creative process, because I could not walk. And walking is a way that I unstick my brain and get the scenes moving again, and I couldn't walk. And I think that's why I went into this sort of creative depression and just had nothing. I had nothing. Nothing was coming, no matter how long I sat at the computer. So I just, after a while, I just said, okay, I need to deal with the health issue, and give myself a break on the writing for a little while. So Deanne Kraft says, yes, you do. Don't try to fix what's not broken. Thank you, right? Yeah, it's just not very efficient, and it would be nice to be a little more efficient so I could write more books for you guys a little faster, but it's not going to happen. Tried that once. Thought I was going to, well, I burned out. I tried to write too many books, one right after the other. Had a contract. Thought, maybe I can do this, but I couldn't. Well, I mean, I did it because I've never missed a deadline, but afterwards I couldn't write for about 8 months. So I was like, okay, not a good idea. Gail said, I meant your process. Love the stories. Thank you, Gail. I figured you meant my process, but thank you, Gail, for saying you love my stories. That means so much to me, truly, and to every writer. And Sally says, maybe a tree cozy in the garage, of course. Sally, I love your sense of whimsy. But no, I do give it a grow light. As I said, I don't think it really cares that I give it a grow light because it just turns brown and dies. I think it goes dormant. I mean, I think that's what it does. It just goes dormant in the winter when it's not getting enough light because the garage just doesn't have a lot of sunlight. So the poor lantana suffers through the winter, but then, like so much of Mother Nature, spring comes, warmth comes, and it just blossoms again. Leaves, flowers, and the hummingbirds come back. So true of so much of life, right? It's a cycle. Certainly of Mother Nature, like my leaves carpeting my front yard in a beautiful yellow carpet that my lawn guys will suck up. Although sometimes I really am tempted to leave them because they look so pretty. And the tree will grow new green leaves next spring. I love that. I love the change of seasons. That's why part of the reason that I could not move to someplace like Florida or even San Diego. I love the weather in San Diego. Went to an RWA conference there. Sally, remember that? You were there, that RWA conference in San Diego. I mean, the weather was so perfect. We would literally have our meetings out by the pool. It was so glorious, a nice breeze, and there was no humidity, and it was just the perfect temperature. And and it was in July. I mean, because RWA conferences are always in the summer, and oh my gosh, it was just perfect. But the truth is, I probably wouldn't be happy there because the seasons never change. It's always the same, and there's something, I don't know, unsatisfying about waking up to beautiful blue skies every day. That sounds bizarre, right? I must be insane. But I always joke about that when I go on vacation in the Caribbean, and you get up in the morning and you look out on your window onto the beach or your balcony that overlooks the beach or whatever, and you're like, it's another perfect day in paradise. And then by the end of it, I'm like, I wish it would rain. I mean, it's just, I know, I'm weird, but I like change. I like the variety. Sally says, I don't know how anyone gets anything done in San Diego, right? I don't either. It's too beautiful there. And as I get older, maybe I might be tempted to move there just because the weather is perfect. There's no snow, there's no rain. I guess the one concern I would have is that I'm always worried that California is going to, have one last huge earthquake and just sort of slide into the Pacific Ocean. But that's just me being paranoid about tectonic plates and faults and stuff. Sally says no humidity, right? Oh my God, no humidity. Well, Sally, you live in D.C., so you guys really suffer from humidity. I mean, it can get bad in New Jersey, but D.C. has way worse humidity than we have here. Deanne says, I agree with you, Nancy. I love the change of seasons. I don't want to get up someplace every day where the weather is the same. Oh, good. I'm glad I'm not the only person who feels that way. Makes me feel less nutty. But I really do. I mean, sometimes I wake up and it's raining and I'm like, oh, how lovely, a rainy day. I can just stay indoors. I don't have to feel guilty about not going out and doing, working in the garden or running errands. Well, I mean, sometimes you have to run errands in the rain anyway, but you can cut them short because it's raining, right? It's not such a bad thing. Sally says, I'm a swimmer. Yeah, I know. So you like the good weather. I get that. But I am not a swimmer. Really not a swimmer. I'm a walker, but yeah, I don't need pool weather. So So, Sally, you would just be in the pool all day long if you lived in San Diego, right? I just remember having like literally having meetings out by the pool at that conference. And I just thought, that was the best conference ever. Sally says, no, I can swim through the humidity. That's true. Because when you're in the pool, it's humid. It's the ultimate in humidity, right? You're surrounded by humidity, and that is the whole point. Okay, well, I have very little more to blather on about, so I will let you guys go, and I will go. And thank you so much, everyone who joined me. It was so fun to see you guys, as it always is. Really appreciate the company. And let's see, we have more. And outdoor swimming means sunburns. The swimmers in California I swam with thought I was too wet white. Well, there is that. Got to use a lot of sunscreen, right? Bye, Gail. Good to see you. Thanks for coming. So nice to see everyone, truly. All right, Sally, well, slather on that sunscreen. Bye, Deanne. So good to see you. Slather on that sunscreen, Sally, so you don't get burnt. And yeah, I will continue to not swim. All right. See you guys next week. Bye-bye.